and people will have to deal with. Okay, we're live, and there's nobody here at the moment, but we'll get started here shortly. This I might have to ask the group to help me with if there's questions that come into the Facebook group.
Okay.
But as of right now, the only people in the Facebook group are you three.
Okay. We're here.
Well, it's the event. And there's this weird thing with Facebook that unless you're my friend, I can't invite you to the event. So if somebody purchases off the internet, I have their email address. I know they're on Facebook, but I can't share it with them because goofy stuff. So maybe it's a group that I set up. Okay. We have 3 people here, 3 people watching so far. We're going to get started shortly, so just hang in there. Too bad I just learned of this. Will be available by recording. Okay, cool. So what I was going to do, I need to set this up. We did a second game. Oh, I know what I did. I was streaming through Facebook in the event. So this is So this is where we would get questions.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. Share event. Questions here.
Why is everyone coming up with
This is on Facebook.
YouTubers don't get to.
YouTubers.
Those YouTubers don't get that question. Taking you their flag.
That is. Here it is. I'm working on. Okay, for those that are watching on YouTube, this will be live streamed all day today. You get to watch. If you would like to participate in the class, there is a link in the description of this class where you could sign up, and then we will take your questions through the private Facebook event that we're having. You will also get access to the replay, and those questions that you ask about your specific knee situation we'll be demonstrating today in the class to help you relieve what's going on with your knees. So you're welcome to watch all day. All of the schedule for the day is in the description of this video. So we're still waiting for one more person to show up. Kyra? Kyra, are you here? Come on in. Oh, we got a baby.
Hello.
Okay. So we have
Blame it on the-
Kyra, we
Hello.
have Abby, and we have Will.
Hello.
Everybody
Hello.
meet each other. We're going to get started here. All the props. So just to let you know the context of what's going on, we're live streaming on YouTube right there. We're live streaming on Facebook right there. Pretty cool, huh?
Yeah.
Okay, and
Technology.
so we'll start here. Let's see. How are you? How is
Good.
that one? Hey.
He's hard to please.
Yeah, sure.
He's
Cool.
good. I figure it'll be cool to have him to demonstrate some of the things that I've been dealing with, like picking him up
Uh-huh.
too within the patterns and the way that I'm kind of bending and moving is affecting my knees and other parts of the body too. But
Cool.
Yeah.
Okay. We got to kind of like settle in.
Yeah.
There's a lot of stuff going on here, getting everything adjusted for today. So, okay, we will start. Hello, my name is Bill, the knee pain guru. And today we're going to have a class. Knee pain event, but it's not limited to that. We're working directly with the nervous system. That's what we're going to focus on today, is our nervous system and how it holds tension and how we can begin to understand the different levels of tension or different ways the body holds tension and access the nervous system in a way to let go of that tension. So I'd like to go to each one of you and have you share what you'd like to get out of today. Like, what would be the ideal thing that if at the end of the day we got this figured out or discovered or solved, that would be a good day. The day would be complete. So, Abby, would you like to start?
sure.
And also add, like, what do you have going on?
What do I
Like,
have
what's
going
your
on?
challenges?
What are my challenges? My challenges.
Physically.
That could go all over.
My challenges are luckily mostly not knee pain,
Okay.
however, other pain.
Okay.
A history of car accidents. And so that has left me with some residual lower back and neck pain.
Mhm.
And currently finger pain from finger injury going on, and also in a state right now where my nervous system is a little more elevated than usual.
Got it. Yeah. Without going into details, and we're friends outside of
Yes.
virtual land. Without going into details, we got a lot of stress going on in your life in general.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so that kind of leads to like, the nervous system being kind of wired. And we're going to tap directly into that and how we can get that to drop and let go
Awesome.
a lot easier and faster.
Yes. But I have been using the modules every day, and they've really been helping.
Nice. Good deal. Kyra?
Yeah. Hello.
Hi.
Let's see. What's been going on? I think the most pressing, consistent physical pain I've had, and it was throughout my pregnancy. I think being pregnant made it more apparent, is I call it stickiness. There's like sticky tissue in my lower rib and connecting from the rib to what feels like my abs, and then from the rib behind, connecting to my spine. So I have a constant aching pain in the middle of my back. So I have a old injury. I was 15. I broke T12 vertebrae, which I found out is connected to the diaphragm. So I have a hard time taking a deep breath, like anytime, all the time. So that causes kind of a chain reaction from here down to my hip, my right knee, and then up through my armpit, shoulder, arm, fingers. I have some nerve damage and an old injury in my hand, boxer's fracture, a bunch of wall.
It happens.
Yeah.
The wall had it coming.
Yeah.
Usually doesn't turn out good for you, though.
Yeah, the worst part was I lived in a log cabin, so it wasn't like drywall. It was like
Oh.
punching a tree. And I actually found my x-ray the other day, and I was like, ooh, so they had to reset it. And I have issues with the right pinky side. And coincidentally, this is my tool. I'm a graphic designer, so I spend a lot of time drawing. So basically my right side of the body, in general, that would be the most pressing. And it all feels connected to that one spot.
Okay.
So I think the ribs and mid back would be.
Ribs in the back.
Yeah.
Sure. What's your name?
Anu.
Anu.
Anu
You're a new baby.
Anu.
It has to be by far my youngest student.
Starting young,
How
right?
old?
He'll be 8 months on Wednesday.
8 months.
And
Okay.
he's been a good teacher for me, and watching him like sit up straight and the way that he's starting to crawl, and like the way that he kind of moves his body to like get up is fascinating.
We'll actually use him a lot in today's class. It's interesting because I was observing my daughter when she was starting to move and roll over and things like that. And children don't have the musculature to move on their own. I mean, maybe to push up a little bit. They have to use their structure. They have to use how they naturally move in order to do that. And as we get older and we have more muscle, we use that as a way to overcompensate for tension in our structure.
Totally.
So we'll tie into that. We'll get into you. Cool. Okay.
My turn.
Yes, sir.
I get to one up everybody.
I think you do. Just like on a baseline, you've already one up there.
Well, I was born with bad ankles, I guess you could say. I had to have surgery when I was 9 months old, so I always struggled with that a little bit. Broke my back the first time when I was in 5th grade. Didn't find out it was broken until 10th grade after a pretty severe car accident. And played sports and all that through, so there were all those kind of normal injuries, I guess. And then when I was about 25, fell 30 feet and broke my back again. I got 3 vertebrae that time. So yeah, low back is, I got 4 in a row. L1, 2, 3, and 4, I think it was. And I have a physically demanding job, so there's all kinds of change in stress. I can kind of chase the tension from one side of the body to the other and from neck down, shoulders down, but low back is the more constant thing. But in the last 2 months, I've gotten a lot of relief with you, and the help I've been getting there is better than the continued relief that I've got from chiropractors over the years. So that's a big help, and the exercises and things are really helping me come along too. But as far as a goal for today, if I could walk out like I'm walking out on clouds, then that would be ideal. It may be a little bit high-minded, but
I always look at it like, well, let's shoot for that.
yeah, exactly.
And if we get halfway there,
it's better than when we came in, so that's good.
And that's that's what I like to emphasize to any of the clients that I work with, because the body has the capability of letting go of tension at the speed of the reflexes, which is 286 miles per hour. Like, they've actually measured the speed at which the nervous system fires, which is kind of cool. And if we're the sum total of all our experiences that has happened our entire life, the stress, the pregnancy, the birth, the accidents or injuries you've been into your life, car accidents, all of that kind of comprises who we are. And I look at it, I look at the physical body like this knotted ball of yarn. It's all kind of like this jumbled mass of thoughts and beliefs and emotions and physical tension and injuries and accidents and traumas and surgeries, all kind of in one big pile. And we're trying to figure this out and get it to heal in amidst our life, which is already busy and already compressed, and a lot of stuff's happening at the same time. But if we can line ourselves up with our nervous system's ability to let go of this tension that fires at 286 miles per hour, it has the ability to let go of this tension much faster and much easier than if we're trying to strengthen or stretch or not do anything. Because a lot of people go for that option. I'm not going to do anything, and I'll just suck it up, and this is just how my life is going to be. So we have another option to be able to tap into the neurological responses and rewire the neurology that's going on in the body to get it to let go faster. So what I'd like to do today is for each of you to experience how I see the way you stand, the way you sit, the way you walk, the way you move, in a way that we can create comfort and begin to rewire the neurology that you could take home from here and work with to continue the momentum of the nervous system letting go of that tension. And for those that are in the Facebook group, get their feedback and then demonstrate, whether it's their knee, their hips, their lower back, their ankles, their feet, their hamstrings, their quads. We brought lots of props. This is all stuff that people have at home. You all have at home that you could use to release and relax that tension. Questions? Anything? Anyone? Bueller? I got a baby staring at me in the front row. So. There's like that. There's no social consciousness there. There isn't like, oh, I'll look away after a while because I've been staring too long. Like,
Black holes.
I'll just stare at you until I don't feel like staring at you. Which is interesting. It's an interesting piece because it's a learned response. It's tension that we take on in looking at someone. I can't look at this person for longer than a socially acceptable period of time. Otherwise, people get weirded out or creeped out or stuff like that. So we got to really like, and then look in another direction. So when we start looking at the physical body through this lens of the neurology, how the nervous system responds, we could begin to understand these things. Well, that's just a habit because I've developed it and it's been ingrained in my nervous system. And this is how I'm getting up that's causing my physical tension. It's because of my broken back that now I'm moving this way that causes it to hurt more. It's because of how I hold my breath that now it increases the tension in my nervous system that causes my hips to hurt, or my knees to hurt, or my neck to hurt. So we begin to look at it through a different lens, and it's like, oh, well, if the nervous system can let go of that at the speed of the reflexes, like the doctor taps your knee with the hammer and your knee jumps, well, that's a game changer. Like, it changes everything across the board. And to get the body to let go of the tension is easy. to prevent ourselves from going back into the old patterns that pull those pain patterns back into our physical body is the challenge. So most of this class is going to be around setting up the environment to avoid the self-sabotage of going back into the old patterns that are keeping us from feeling like we're walking out of here on cloud. Which is kind of nutty. So it's not about trying harder, because that's what I hear a lot. I got to push through the pain. I got to just do it. Pain is weakness leaving the body. And there's this mentality that if we continue to, the nervous system doesn't recognize a negative. Like, what is no knee pain? What is no back pain? We don't recognize that. So by continuing to focus on the pain, we draw it back into our reality. We draw it back into our experience. And when we focus on comfort, it's a completely different animal. And it's something that's going to be a little bit awkward and strange and like, what is he talking about? And there'll be emotions that'll come up, like you'll get kind of irritated at me, pissed off, like, what is no pain? When you've been feeling pain for so long, that is what the focus is. It's like the difference in pulling up a weed and planting something else in its place, as opposed to just spraying Roundup on the weed or just pulling the weed out and not doing anything. We have to replace that with something we want to grow there. And what we want to grow there is comfort, feeling more strength and mobility and flexibility in the body. And in order to get there, we have to begin, which is kind of struggling through, what does our life look like when we aren't doing the things that are causing the pain that we find ourselves stuck in each day. It's a little bit of a flip it around. Okay. Let's go over some of the cues we're going to look for. So we create comfort in the physical body. We're switching neurological states. We're going from a sympathetic or a fight or flight state to a parasympathetic state, a rested and relaxed state. And when the body's in a rested and relaxed state, all the healing mechanisms come online, and the body lets go of tension much faster. So when we're in a sympathetic state, heart rate increases, blood pressure increases, tension is increased in the body, digestion decreases, cortisol and adrenaline production increase. Like, all of the mechanisms that slow down the body's ability to heal go into effect. And when we shift that neurological state by creating comfort, all of the good mechanisms kick in. Heart rate decreases, blood pressure decreases, creative processes increase, digestion increases, the body relaxes. And when that happens, we're looking for certain cues. We're looking for the breath to change, to relax. We're looking for the mind to wander, eyes to blink. You can watch the breathing go from deep to shallow or shallow to deep. You can feel heat or cold or twitching or all sorts of mechanisms. And what I'm talking about is that moment right before you're about to fall asleep. If you've ever had that experience, you're sitting on a couch or in a chair, and you're ready, but you're feeling, your mind is drifting, and all of a sudden your body jerks. Mm-hmm. That is the state that instead of us doing it unconsciously when we're exhausted at the end of the day, now we're trying to consciously create that state in the physical body at the location of discomfort. And we're creating comfort in that space. So that's what we're essentially doing throughout today. And then we'll do like a little bit of comfort, and then I'll go over all of the questions and setting up the context to make sure this can continue on throughout the day, into your life, into scenarios, because everybody has different. Some people have to sit for work. Some people have to stand for work. Some people have to hold things up over their head for extended period of time, so it creates different tension patterns. So by bringing your daily experience into questions here, that will allow me to see how we can get comfort to apply in all areas of your life, and how we can build in mechanisms so your body can continue to recover faster and faster throughout the day, every day. That making sense? Okay, let's see. Who would like to be first? Live chat. Okay. Okay, we have 3 people here. Somebody's got to volunteer. What would you like to work with? Anything? You want to do the hands? That'll be an easy, non-invasive one to work with initially, because we have 2 hands here that are having pinky issues. Here's your pinky, right? The
I
concept.
have similar.
Yeah. I mean,
It's all that same area.
yeah.
Me too.
So what we're going to do is initially work with the fingers. And this can be easily Googled, like the anatomy of the hand, to look at the bones in the finger and what we're looking at. And each finger, these 4 digits are essentially the same in terms of the number of bones in each finger and how we're going to work with them. And we're going to work with the range of motion in the joint in the relationship of each bone. So you have, Abby, let's use yours. Why don't you
Okay.
sit up here and we'll kind of go over what you have going on. Why don't you explain?
I had an injury, let's see, the beginning of September, and had,
Just tell me where it hurts.
yeah, it hurts.
And this is a really good point. This is a really good point. A lot of times when we have an injury, we get into the story of everything that's happened since we fell off a swing when we were 2, and now we have this thing that's going on here. And if it's important to verbalize that process, that's good. But in terms of really getting the body to let go of tension, to like at the speed of the reflexes, we need to be like anew. Like, where does it hurt? It hurts right here. See, Mom? Right here. And that's all we need. Like, really. I know. You hear me. I get it. So, share as much as you can.
So, yeah, this joint is affected right here. The bone is kind of misaligned right there.
Okay.
And it hurts.
And it hurts to extend it or bend it.
It hurts a little bit when it's at the end of the bend.
Okay.
And then also, if it goes sideways sometimes.
So those are the only 2 ranges that it hurts, when you fully bend it or you bend it sideways. So it'd be like when you're picking something up. Okay, perfect.
Yep.
And that really lets us know where not to go. We use the pain not as like a place to dwell on and be like, oh, it always hurts here. We use it as a place where we need to turn. We need to go in a different direction. So for you, it hurts when we fully bend it. And in that fully bent position, what happens if we rotate it clockwise and counterclockwise?
This way it hurts a little bit, this way it feels better.
So hold it in that position, which way it feels better. In what we're, see the breath already changed.
Mhm.
It shifted in the neurology. And it looks like, it's like when we get in alignment with the nervous system, getting rid of pain is kind of a non-event. It's so silly because it's our mind that's keeping us stuck with the pain. Getting into the story of all of it happens, and then we get stuck in the way that it hurts, that we don't know how to move because it hurts that way. And if we just slow it down and go, okay, when does it hurt? So you go into a deeper level, it's relaxing. Not in just the finger, it's dropping a deeper level. So part of the level of stress that Abby's under and other things that will tie in is directly tied into this finger. Because in order for whatever's going on in our life, where we experience physical pain is part of that larger tension pattern. And if we address what is screaming the loudest or hurting the most, and we can slow it down to create comfort in that space, we can shift all that other stuff. It's like the 80-20 principle or the Pareto principle. That was 20% of our efforts will lead to 80% of the results. And in that case, with the finger, it's even more. It's like 1% of our effort can lead to 99% of our results. If we can get out of our brain to recognize the pain is just information. So we have to kind of separate ourselves from the experience of what we're going through and look at it like an objective third party and go, oh, it hurts when I fully bend it. What if I rotate it clockwise? Okay, if I rotate it counterclockwise. So, okay, you've been holding it for a while. Like I was saying, creating comfort is like a blink. The majority of this class is going to be creating the context so we don't get out of that state. So can you kind of share how does that feel when you bend it fully?
It feels better. There's less tension, less pain.
And does it still bug you a little bit? Now, go back and rotate it clockwise and counterclockwise and see if the direction has changed.
There's a little bit more comfort than there was before in the other direction.
Does it still feel better in the initial direction?
Yes.
And go in that initial direction again, just not as much.
Okay.
Because it's like, it was like this. We went one direction, so this is center. This is how your finger normally is. When we went this way, it felt better. This way, not so much. As it began to balance, it shifted like this a little bit. Does that make sense? So even though it's still a little bit more comfortable to the initial direction, the position of comfort is different. Is that making sense? And a lot of times there's that space where when we, if we threw a rock in the water and we give the water time to settle, that's what we're waiting for in the nervous system when we create comfort. So there's that initial, we created comfort, and now we're waiting for it, the water to kind of settle. Because before, the finger hurt. Every time she moved the finger, it was bothering her. So the water was kind of churned up in addition to just the general baseline level of stress she was experiencing. Now we're giving it time to kind of settle in that place of comfort, in that place where the neurological the baseline of the neurology has a chance to kind of settle down, just like the water, after a while, and then see how that feels.
Better.
So this would be something that Abby could then continue to work with anytime. Sitting in a class, watching television, at her desk, watching a video or something, watching a movie. There are times in our day when we can take these concepts and begin to plug them directly into our day that will get it to let go of that tension. So that was just one direction. That was with fully bent. The other one was bending it. How does that feel now? Because even though we didn't directly work with the other direction where it was bending from side to side, relaxing the tension in the first place will make the second place that hurt that you brought up easier.
Mm-hmm.
So see how that feels when you bend it side to side.
Yeah, this side is ouchy.
Is that ouchie?
It's ouchy.
That's a medical term.
Right.
And it gets into this gray area where we tie in the person's experience with how the body can let go of that tension. You would say there is from a medical perspective, they would diagnose it as a possible, third digital strain, something, possible hematoma, something like that. And what ends up happening is we kind of lose the person in that experience. There it's like, well, how would you describe it? You would describe it as ouchie.
Ouchie.
You would describe it as it friggin' hurts, So everyone has their own experience of what's going on there, and we don't want to negate that. We want to use it as a way of figuring out how we can bridge the gap in our languaging to find comfort. So how I would bridge the gap in the languaging to get you to a place where let's go was find it where it's less ouchy. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So if it's ouchy this way, then we would want to take it this way.
Just like that.
Non-ouchie.
Non-ouchie,
Non-ouchie.
less ouchy, non-ouchy. And we could also compress into the joint a little bit, and we could also rotate. Now, this may seem like it's not applicable to you because of your back. I would encourage you to work with your fingers because you're a mechanic. You work a lot with your hands. 30% of all the input that's tension and stress in our body comes through our hands, 30% through our feet. So you can actually release a tremendous amount of tension in your physical body just by working with the fingers. And it's super subtle, like you'd sit here and like you're futzing with your fingers and all of a sudden it's like, whoa, wow. But you just try it. You just rotate the finger. Like I'll have, because of the way I grab certain ways or lifting weights or doing kettlebells or whatever that is, there are these patterns that happen in my hands and in my fingers that I can begin working with, that it's just a subtle twist, but it's engaging the tensegrity structure. And I'll go into detail on that. But when you engage the tensegrity structure, you're not just engaging what's going on in the finger, you're engaging the entire body. And you can facilitate the release of other areas without ever having to, like, I can't reach that spot in the middle of my back. But I can engage the tensegrity structure, let's say in my arm that's connected to that. I can engage the tensegrity structure in my hands or in my feet or in my legs, areas that I can reach, to begin to diffuse the general tension in my entire body that will allow it to not be so acute. And we can also get a better understanding of tension in other areas of the body. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
How's the ouchy finger doing over here?
Less ouchy.
It's less ouchy. So would you share kind of your experience of in that position of comfort, what it feels like for you?
Yeah.
Because it's different for everybody.
Well, yeah, I feel my breath deepen in increasing tears. So it will deepen a little bit, and then a little bit more, then a little bit more, and then I'll feel more of my body relax.
So it just, if I may paraphrase, it doesn't happen all at once. It's
Right.
kind of like in stages.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, oh, I can relax the hand. Oh, no, I can relax the arm.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, now wow, this spot in my back starts letting go. Now I can sit here more comfortably. And then it kind of feels like this, for me, my experience of it, it kind of feels like this, that space right before I'm about to fall asleep, that I'm not really totally sleeping. I'm just kind of like in a meditative place or a contemplative place where you have to slow down your mind a little bit in order to get there. How would you say it's different? Because you've been watching the videos and you've been doing this, but there was still this little bit of a gap between, okay, I'm doing it and it's helping, but it's not quite this.
Mm-hmm.
So I'd like to know, what did my walking you through there bring to the table that isn't covered in the video?
Right.
That's what I mean.
I think it's combining a couple of the different things. So not
Okay.
just doing it clockwise, but like pulling it to the side and turning it clockwise.
Okay. Yeah, totally. This is really great. So, the body holds tension at a specific vector and force. So if I hit something with a hammer and it creates a dent in a car door, I would use examples based on people's professions so they can relate. There is a specific amount, in order to make the dent the size that it was and the impact that it is, there is a certain direction and amount of force that was created to make the dent. In order to pull that dent out, we have to essentially neutralize the direction and the force that was created for the impact. The nervous system, I have to explain tensegrity structure. What happens is when we fall, when we have a baby, or not me, you, women have babies, you break your back, you go through a stressful time, there is a certain direction and force that the body experiences. Whether it comes from one direction, like the hammer on the door, or it comes from multiple directions because the weight of the world is on my shoulders because of relationship, finances, job, stuff. So we hold it in a certain way, and it gets stuck in our physical body. In order to get it unstuck, we have to match the direction and the force of the experience of what happened. Falling off the ladder, the experience of the birth, the stressful stuff, whatever's going on in our bodies. And by creating the same direction and the force of what we've experienced, it creates a neutral and shifts neurological states. So in the videos that I'm demonstrating, what we're doing is a basic linear understanding of how the joint can move. What I'm doing today here is taking that basic linear understanding of how the joint moves and matching it to your experience of how your finger feels right now. And you see how the linear understanding of how the body moves isn't necessarily the same as the direction and the force of what you've experienced. Kyra, I see smoke coming out of your ears. This is.
It makes sense in the sense of, I think of it like two negatives equal a positive.
Totally.
Right.
Yeah.
So I use the term a lot when I teach yoga. Lean into the discomfort, which is not necessarily applicable in this situation. You don't want to lean into the discomfort, but when you use the metaphor of a dent, you don't push against it to. Well, I guess you would push against the dent to fix it technically. So I'm lost as far as how the experience of trauma and the direction that came from, whether it's physically within the body or emotionally from the experience that you have with another relationship or whatever, wherever the trauma comes from, why wouldn't the opposite be true? Like, why is it that you need to experience the same direction? So I'm like just trying to digest that concept, I think.
Opposite. Okay, let me give you the example this way. There's two ways of addressing tension in the body. There's a direct and there's an indirect approach. What I'm talking about right now is an indirect approach.
Okay.
Yoga is going to be a direct approach.
Okay.
So yoga is taking something that's tight and stretching it. If you give me a news little tensegrity structure there, this is perfect. I couldn't ask for a better prop. This is exactly a tensegrity structure. This is like a geodesic dome or a bicycle wheel. The tension in the structure is the structure is created by the tension in the ropes.
Sure.
If we squeeze two ends, it relaxes some and increases tension in other areas.
Sure.
If I push, it does the same thing in reverse. What I'm saying is in Abby's finger, there was a tension pattern like this. It's twisted here. All we're doing, instead of stretching it, which would aggravate, it goes to pain because it's twisted in the middle here. All we're doing with Abby's finger is pulling these two ends together so the body can let go of the tension there. Then when she returns back to test it, that is gone and it's changed. It's moved somewhere else in the tensegrity structure of the knee. Or it may still be here, but to a lesser extent. And that's indirect.
Yeah.
Indirect.
What would be direct?
Direct is we have a spot here. You're saying pull these apart and breathe, which can shift the neurology of what's going on. However, if you're in such a level of pain at this spot and we stretch it, it's not going to go anywhere because
they're still going to be in pain.
they're still going to be in pain.
Right.
Now, there is a reflex called the Golgi reflex that when we stretch it long enough and hard enough in pain, the reflex fires telling us it hurts. After a period of time, the reflex stops firing, not because it doesn't hurt, but because the reflex is fatigued. And what happens is as soon as we let off of that and the reflex gets reset again, it's going to come back tight. And generally what happens is the person for 3 or 4 days after they've gone through that is that it's super sore. It's super tender. And that's what happens when people do like foam rollers or anytime they're stretching something. They want fingers ouchy, and I'm just gonna pull it this way. You know what I'm saying? It's like we're fighting the pattern that the body is displaying. And it's just like if the tide's coming in and I'm in a boat and I'm rowing out. I'm fighting the pattern of what's going on. In this case, it is the tide coming in and I'm paddling and I'm working real hard and I'm not going to get very far. But if I just wait a little bit longer and wait till the tide starts going out, put the boat in the water and start paddling, I'm going to get so much further without fighting the body to do so. Fighting. We're just getting ourselves in line with what our body is capable of. Instead of fighting it, we're getting with it.
Yeah, my tendency, particularly if we're talking about fingers, right?
Sure.
Mine kind of is more hand than fingers. So if I'm working for a long time and I'm drawing and I'm on the computer and I feel tingling or my hand starts cramping, and because the break is here, right? So it's the bones kind of came together. So I tend to come this way. My natural inclination is to stretch it out because that's, I don't know why I do that.
Let's slow it down.
Yeah.
You know why.
Why?
That's what you're familiar with.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because I want to feel it, but why do I want to feel the pain?
It's because your mind can identify and it understands with what it can feel.
Can I jump up there?
Yeah, totally. That'd be perfect.
Now that he's
Great time.
underneath the chair.
Mom, where are you going? Okay, which hand? Okay. So let's go over like why you're stretching it.
Yeah.
It's because most of the time we do what we do is because we're familiar with it.
Yeah.
Like, okay, it hurts. Let's stretch it. And that's half the equation. And we're bringing the other half of the equation into the conversation today, which is how can we take the tension off of this spot to engage the reflexes so it lets go of the tension that's got stuck in the hand as a result of the break. So we stretch it this way, we can feel it. What if we take it the other way? Gently. So we don't want to take it in the same way. In the
No, I
opposite
understand.
direction.
Yeah. It's just kind of this definitely feels more comfortable.
Okay, so let's look at how we can create the environment around that to facilitate this letting go faster.
Okay.
So think about the tension that's going on in your bicep and your shoulder right now as you hold that, as well as this other one. Now, how can you drop that to your leg so your leg can support that?
I'm not sure.
You see how you don't have to hold your arm down?
Yeah.
And you're holding it in a position of comfort. You're relaxing the tension of what's going on in the rest of your body.
Yeah.
So now you're lining up the rest of your body. It's like aiming a gun. We have the front sight, we have the rear sight in order to hit the target. So now the front sight or the target is creating comfort here.
So if I'm feeling tension, like my sacrum, low back, would it make sense to sit up against something?
You could sit up against something. We could also use something to take the tension out of your pelvis.
Or like sit up on a pillow or something to raise?
Could sit up on a pillow. We have
Let me
them.
see how that feels.
Let's try the blanket or sorry, the towel. Maybe a little bit more. So that'll push the pelvis forward in a way, so it takes the tension out of the lower back.
That's better.
Perfect.
Yeah.
You could also do this lying down. Like one of the favorite times that I work on areas that kind of annoy me is when I wake up in the middle of the night. I'm laying there and it's like, okay, I'm not awake enough that I can get up and do anything, and I'm not tired that I'm not able to fall asleep. But what I can do is I can begin working with these areas in my hips, my IT bands, my knees, whatever I can actually reach or work with that will allow it to facilitate it to let go. Because I'm shifting my nervous system from a sympathetic to a parasympathetic state. It also helps me drift off.
Mhm.
You see how your eyes are.
Yeah, I'm like feeling like I'm gonna fall asleep.
No. So you can drop into this. The nervous system will fire like that.
Mhm.
So it's one of those non-events. It's one of those things that it's like to anybody who's watching right now, it's kind of like watching paint dry or grass grow from the outside in. But your experience is tremendous because the nervous system is now reorganizing.
Mhm.
In order for that to hurt or that to be tight, the rest of your body has to hold tension a certain way. Now you're getting in alignment with the nervous system's ability to let all this stuff go and continues to shift and change and shift and change and shift and change. And the deeper you drop into that comfort, the faster it teaches your neurology to let go of that tension.
Mhm. I'm feeling the outsides of my hips kind of like squeeze. And then keep becoming aware of that and just letting them go, but that causes me to want to kind of pull forward.
Okay, you can slouch. If slouching is more comfortable, that's okay.
Yeah. I tend to be hyper aware of that lately.
The tension in the hips.
Yeah, and the tendency to just slouch all the time. So I'm swimming upstream by sitting up and holding.
Here's the interesting part about slouching. Sometimes when the body is holding tension, we're actually fighting our tension by staying in this position.
Right.
But if we allow our neurology to slouch to the point where we relax and let go of that tension, now it's easier to sit up.
Mm-hmm.
Gotta get the computer.
It's after the screen.
It is.
It's side note, it's amazing we don't have a TV at home, but if I go out anywhere, there's this screen, it's like
Yeah. Will's got 4.
that makes sense now.
Okay, how is that? How's that feeling?
It's a lot better.
And how would you describe, because you've been working in Knee Club, how would you describe what I just walked you through, the same gap that I was talking to Abby about? You watch the videos, I've given you specific videos to work with, and how was my talking you through that different than what was demonstrated in the videos?
It's much easier to understand the process of what's happening when you're sitting here next to me.
Mm.
Of that it's okay to shift, and like when you watch a video of how to or stretch or whatever, you're seeing it as an image,
Mm-hmm.
but it's the inner experience is very personal.
Mm-hmm.
So because you can actually see me and see like tension and figure out how to cue relaxing, it's much easier to follow.
Mm.
Yeah.
Is it because we're more in time with?
Yeah.
Okay.
He's
Gotcha. Got my.
gonna untie her shoelaces.
That's
That's
okay.
what it
That's fair. Okay. Yeah. And that's what it is. This is why, because your nervous system can fire so quickly and let go of tension so quickly, there are things you like trying to figure out how to move your finger or how to move your hand, and it's already shifted and different by the time, like, it's, wait a minute, it's different already.
Mhm.
So being able to talk you through it is like watching the breathing pattern say it already shifted.
Yeah.
And be able to describe to you in time. Being able to shift in time to what's going on in
Yeah.
the neurology.
Yeah, because it's fast.
It's super
It was
fast.
very fast.
And the interesting piece is the more you practice it, the faster it gets, because you realize how quickly the nervous system has already let go of tension.
How do you get it to stay there?
Okay, there's layers and levels to this game. Staying there is more of a function of what I was saying before, of the context that you create, allowing your neurology to continue to shift beyond creating the comfort. I have a lot of clients who will say, well, it felt good for 15 minutes and then it came back. First thing I'll say, are you drinking enough water? Because we're rewiring the nervous system, which is an electrical system. Water conducts electricity. So it can go through your nervous system and then it hits what's part of your body that's dehydrated or is holding tension in such a way that will stop it and kind of send it back. So your bodies could be dehydrated. You'd be like, oh, I drink plenty of water. Then if your body doesn't have the ability to absorb the water because it's mineral deficient, that's another situation. You just got it comfortable. Well, instead of giving your neurology time to rest, you jump right back in on the computer and you're sitting doing the thing, or you go work on the car. You sometimes our lifestyle is actually putting us back into the pattern that we're trying to escape. I was guilty of it. I got out of pain after my knee injury. I got out of pain. I would feel good, and I would immediately go to judo class, and I get thrown on my head or something like that, and it's like, okay, it's back. Why didn't it change? Well, I was doing the same things that were actually causing me to go into that place.
Mm-hmm.
Is that making sense?
Mm-hmm.
There is diet. There is the situation in our life. There were periods of time where, because of the level of stress I was under, I couldn't change those patterns permanently because, well, I had to get out of the city, or I had to move, or there was a relationship that I just couldn't like cut it right now. I needed to, some other things needed to be addressed first. So there's layers to this game, and we can't just look at it like the hand, especially if you've had that experience for how many years?
4, 3, 4.
That's right. You know how this works. So a lot of times it's a length of time that we've experienced an injury, and it takes time. Like, what does my life look like if I don't have this injury? Oh, you're standing. Look at you. Look at you. So a lot of times we identify with the injury. It's like, well, that's just how my body feels, or that's how it's always going to feel.
Mm-hmm.
I can't change it. And if there's already that belief there, well, then, yeah, it's going to go back.
Yeah, the concept of I am blank.
Right.
I am in pain. I tend to reiterate that story about the right side of my body and about my hand, like, all the time.
Mhm.
I think because when I meet people, pain is kind of a connector to people. Like you,
Okay.
Everybody knows pain.
everybody knows. Yeah, it's like a universal principle, I guess, that especially with moms, we all share our horror trauma stories about birth and about all of these things, and rarely does anyone share how easy the experience was, but the difficulties with it. So I guess the only way to kind of transcend that is to live it.
There's this place where our neurology is hardwired to look for the threat.
Mm-hmm.
When there is a threat, we immediately zero in on that threat. And we're bombarded day in and day out by lots of threats or perceived threats, newspaper, radio, television, internet, arguments we get on social media and stuff like that. And it's considered threats. So it creates tension in our neurology. When we have pain, it's a threat. So it's easy for the nervous system to identify the threat. The key in this process is to topic switch at the point where we experience the pain, like we were talking about with your finger. We just want to use the location of the pain as an indicator of what direction we need to change to. And the faster we begin to develop that neurology of like, oh, it hurts this way, I'm going to go the opposite way. Instead of continuing to focus on the direction that it hurts. Where doesn't it hurt? And where does the opportunity present itself as a result of giving that space for the neurological shift in that place of comfort?
That makes sense, because if you were an animal and there was a threat over there, something's going to eat you. You're not going to go that way.
Right.
You're going to
go the opposite way.
Yeah, that makes sense.
All of this stuff is based on universal principles.
Mm-hmm.
It's based on the understanding that the nervous system operates in a certain way, that universal laws apply no matter what. And if we disregard them, we are at the mercy of those universal laws. Like gravity works. We can't get over that. You could jump off the building and say, I could fly, but it's the reality of it is when you hit the ground, it's going to hurt.
Mm-hmm.
There's the reality of like the tides. When the tide comes in, paddling out is just going to be difficult. You can say, no, it's not. It's still going to be difficult. And we have these realities around us. The more we understand these realities and get in alignment with these realities as opposed to fighting them, the easier life can be. We're talking about pain in particular. And if we sit aside and just observe and go, oh, well, that's the pattern that my body is showing. I could fight it. I could stretch the shit out of it, and it's still going to be there. But if I create comfort, well, let's go. That make sense?
Mhm.
So how long is it gonna last? It opens up a larger conversation of layers and levels of your commitment to doing things differently, or being different, or showing up differently, or choosing to make a different, going in a different direction when you see something present in your life.
Right.
The pain in the hand. Instead of stretching it, what if you immediately got into this place, relaxing everything, zoning completely out and letting the neurology shift? Is it as like one thing you can do? Or drinking a glass of water, or getting up or walking around, or whatever that is.
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Mhm.
Okay, I want to keep, okay, where are we at? 10:13. The next session is going to start at 11. I want to get you up here. And let's see. I also want to talk about ultradian rhythms. This is something that ties in with the bigger picture of what's going on. It's like we could talk about these minute things in our fingers and in our hands. And we could also recognize these bigger patterns that are going on in our life throughout the day. And they're called ultradian rhythms. There's a book by Ernest Rossi called The 20-Minute Break. And it talks about ultradian rhythms which take place throughout the day. Every 90 to 120 minutes, we go through this peaks and valleys in our energy. And I try to live my life this way. It means when you first get up out of bed, or there'll be times when you start a project, and there's this building up of momentum on the project, and we get going really great. You know, things are, we're writing, or we're working on a project, or splitting wood, or whatever it is. And then there gets to this point where all of a sudden, I'm getting a little tired. And it starts going downhill to this point where we get diminishing returns. And those diminishing returns, we're working harder, putting more energy, but we're not being as productive. And this is what happens in every 90 to 120 minutes. So I've kind of scheduled today to be, every session is going to be around 90 to 120 minutes long. So we can begin to feel when the energy starts to drop and we're really starting to work. That's when we want to topic switch, which means go to the bathroom, get some water, get something to eat, move around, do something like that. So we aren't frying the nervous system, because we're looking through the lens of the neurology of the body. Is that making sense?
Mhm.
So we could begin to use this as ways, and I'll do this. I'll go on emails. I get, like, we already got questions coming over here and over there. So it's like I'll get into answering questions about knee pain and what's going on, and it's like, oh, it's the same question over, you know. And at first, I feel real patient, and I'm doing really well as far as answering these questions, the same questions over and over about pain. And then I'll get to a point where it's like, okay, I need to take a break. I need to get away from this because they're draining on me. And that's water. I'll go outside, water the plants, do something in the yard, exercise maybe, do something that's different. And then I could return to answering the questions about pain, and I'll have reset my neurology, so I'm not going to be telling people to F off because they're not paying attention, that kind of thing. So I keep myself in check with this, like it's a perpetual thing in me. So the last class I did back in June here, it was like, I didn't even have to look at the clock. I knew it was like, Okay, we need to topic switch here. We need to go out, we'll take a break and all that. So, anyhow, Kyra, how are you? How is that? How's that doing?
Better.
And pay attention to how that lets go and what you notice in the different pattern that you were talking about on the right side.
Yeah.
Because this is consequently what happens. When what is screaming the loudest or what hurts the most, we get comfortable, we can begin hearing what's going on underneath. We become more aware of the underlying pattern that can now be addressed, that if we were to just stretch it, doesn't get heard or felt because the thing that's screaming the loudest is all we're paying attention to, all we can pay attention to. Our awareness is still going to the threat that's screaming the loudest. Is that making sense? Okay. Will, why don't you come on up? We'll figure out what's going on here. I'll direct and guide all of these people who are asking questions on YouTube to go to the link in the description where you could sign up to get into the Facebook group, and then we will answer questions there. So this is a free live stream for those who would like to participate and watch throughout the entire day. This will be complimentary. And if you would like your questions answered, like access to the replay, and would like me to demonstrate exactly what you have going on or whatever questions you're asking, then please sign up for the online course. You're welcome to do that throughout the entire day. We're going to go here for about another 20 or so minutes, and then the next session, the second session, is going to start at 11. Okay, what you got going on? You had the back and the lower back, right?
Yeah.
How is that today? What's going on?
I'm actually pretty good today.
Well, come on now.
There's always plenty of room for improvement, but you know, I've spent 20 some years with pain and limited motion and severe consequences for not paying attention to that.
Right.
So, a little bit of pain here or there, tightness here or there, stiffness here or there is nothing compared to, because I've always identified what my lower back hurts.
Right.
I've always told people it's 10 o'clock before I can really move. And that's not really been the case lately. So I'm going from here and I'm down to here. Maybe I should do that the other way. I'm down, going from here, I'm up to here, and to get to here, that's I'm happy. I've always got some lower back discomfort in one way or another. I deal with a lot of tension between the shoulders, shoulder blades up to neck. Elbows will act funny, ankles will act funny, but today's actually a pretty good day.
Cool. And that's great. I'm interested in getting into the deeper components of this, because a lot of people will have the pain at this level, and they'll be satisfied with that. That's the best it could get. It could be worse.
Yeah.
I've had worse days. It's not as bad as it used to be. Like, they'll justify that. And what I'm saying is, we take you whatever level you're at, no matter how it was in the past, we're taking you at that level today. And how could we use the information from your nervous system to improve on that? Which looks like just feedback. Oh, I feel tension in my right hip. It's kind of like right about there in my back. And what we're doing is, instead of it we're complaining about it, we're using it as pure feedback from the neurology, like you're looking on the dashboard of a car and, oh, the check engine light just went on. Or, the radiator is a little hot or whatever it is. We're using that as the input to say, I need a little bit more oil, need a little more coolant, I need to check on something. So you're familiar with sensors.
A little bit. Yeah.
So what I'd like to do is work specifically with how your pelvis is and how it feels up into your lower back, because how you sit there right now is the same pattern that you're going, or a similar pattern that you're going to walk with, that you're going to lay down with to go, to sleep, to drive in a car. The pattern exists whether you notice it or feel it or not. So we're trying to take well, what little bit can I push myself to become aware of to then work with? So that's where we're at. So with that being said, anything you're noticing? Left, right, lower back, middle of the back?
Middle of the back is tight, and as far as back to pelvis relationship, it's like my normal thing is at the bottom of the back, top of the pelvis, it rotates forward. Exaggerated would be like this, but as I sit here, I feel like it should be more like that. And instead,
Pelvis should be tucked underneath you just a little
the
bit.
pelvis tucked underneath and lower back feels like it's, rotated really far forward instead of a little more straight.
Okay.
It's bowed more at the bottom of the back
Okay.
than it feels like it should be.
If you were to pull your right hip up towards your right ear and your left hip up towards your left ear, which one's easier?
Left a little bit more,
Okay.
a little bit easier.
Okay, let's do this. So what we're gonna do is use the towel. All right. And we're gonna put it underneath, sit more in the center of this side, and I'm gonna have you slide this underneath your left butt cheek. Just underneath your left butt cheek. And let me know how that feels like in the lower back, middle
As far
of
as
that.
pain,
Not so much pain, but your level of comfort. You had this experience before we put it there. We got all this input based on what it feels like.
I feel like my body's trying to pick the right side up to be level. Like there's not a tension, but there's like a
Too much. Is it too much on the left?
I don't know.
Okay, let's do this. So we had it this much. We're gonna take that out a little bit.
I still feel like my body wants to shift, but it wants to hold itself
Okay.
in that pattern.
Okay. Let's just do that. And you could do this with books.
And don't really feel it.
Cool.
Any difference.
Any difference in the sides?
Right.
Okay, now this is a really important point. His neurology felt the difference in the tension without the towel. When we put the towel folded, tri-folded, he felt like he still had to grab the other one. As we took it out, we wanted to get so where he doesn't feel anything. This is the difference between what I was talking about when we look for pain and then we're looking for something that's not pain or not tension. This is what it feels like, and it's going to feel awkward because it's quiet. It's almost like I don't feel anything.
Yeah.
It just feels good.
Neutral.
And neutral, exactly. In the place of neutral, we're shifting neurological states. There is more going on in the way Will is sitting and his back, his pelvis, legs, and all that now than in any of those other positions, which included him sitting without the towel, tri-folded, and double-folded in there. And this is a huge point, and it's gonna seem strange and awkward, and the BS meter comes up. It's like, what? What do you mean? I don't feel anything. This can't possibly be working. And this is the trap that so many people fall into, is because that's the space that the body heals the most. And why people are working so hard to stretch, because they're missing this. They're missing, they don't, we have to teach the body how to feel comfortable again, how to feel like anew, right? He doesn't have to figure out what the position of comfort is. As an 8-month-old, 9-month-old, he just goes there. He doesn't even think about it. And what happened is over time in life, for whatever reason, be it male, be it female, accidents, injuries, surgeries, traumas. I want to ask you what's going on right now because a lot's shifted. Accidents, injuries, surgeries, traumas cause us to take on these unnatural patterns just to survive, just to compensate for knee replacement surgery or the pain in there, or because we had to sit at a job for 8 hours a day for weeks on end and all that. So now we get up from in these positions where we've been compromised and we're moving and we experience this pain. We can't even remember what it was like not to have it because we didn't appreciate what it was like to be 9 months old and not feeling any of that. And all I'm here to do is like kind of remind everybody, well, this is how it's supposed to feel. This is how it could feel all the time. And for someone in that space who's been in pain for days and days and weeks and months and years, sometimes even decades, and they're going for drugs and shots, surgeries, physical therapy, push through the pain, no gain, pain is weakness leaving the body, just do it, push through it. This is such a foreign experience. It's like we're talking apples and oranges. Okay, now I want to go back to this and the popping that I was hearing as a result of that. And this is so cool. This is so freaking cool. Go ahead. Tell me what you felt, what was going on.
I would say that what was going on here kind of moved. And then,
Great.
It's stuck between my shoulders, but that helps a lot. All that popping that you hear is a pretty normal practice for me. And it kind of, it releases some of that locked tension.
Okay.
But doesn't get rid of all of it because there's still something else that has to happen.
Got it. I just stop. We stop. It's like one of those things we don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves. We want to have the conversation at the point when we put this in here, in what did it shift and it moved. Snapshot.
Mm-hmm.
Got it. It moved. It's different. Now we're on to a different conversation. And this is what I want to get into, how it shifted and where is it now? And what do we need to do next? Because that's how quickly the nervous system can shift. And it makes it a different experience. We don't want to get too far ahead of ourselves and talk about the future or how it's always been. We want to talk about where is it now? Like what happened?
You're asking me what happened.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened. It just kind of went from here to mid-back between my shoulder blades.
Okay.
A little lower.
So as you're sitting there and you move your pelvis backwards, what happens to that spot?
Between my shoulders?
Yes.
I don't feel a lot of difference. It's more noticeable, I guess.
When you roll back.
When I roll back, it's more noticeable.
What if you go forward?
Then I feel it all the way back. I don't feel it in my shoulders.
Okay, let's do this. We're gonna take this out. We're gonna do this. And we're gonna set you not quite, right there. So it kind of rolls your pelvis forward.
Mm-hmm.
And what's happening? Now, what happens in the middle back? What happens in the lower back?
It's all kind of relaxed.
Boom. Now we don't do it. You're like, let's listen.
Don't wake the baby.
Yeah, don't wake the baby. And do sleep. And this is like the slowing down. We need to. You can see when it's like we're going. But it hurts here. 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 We miss where it doesn't hurt. And what we need to do in this space is listen to what happens in that little gap between the pain, the gap in what's happening in Will's nervous system is it's bleeding off all of this tension that is going on that's causing his experience of feeling it pinching in his lower back or tightness in his lower back and his middle between his shoulder blades. And it's giving the space for his nervous system to let this go. And then we're listening. We're waiting until something happens where it's finished. And now he's going to have another experience, which could be hip or
Neck.
neck. It went to your neck? Okay, bingo. Now, what we're going to do, this is module 25, is see how you could turn your head to the right or to the left to make it different. Which direction is more comfortable?
Right.
Okay. And does it completely go away?
No, it's still there. It's just a lot less.
Okay, turn to the right. Now, I want you to, in the position of the right, I want you to tilt your head to the right or to the left and make it. What do we got?
It's hard to turn your head right and tilt it left. But that kind of makes it go away. It's more on like the base of my neck, top of my shoulders on the left. So
Cool.
turn to the right, tilt to the left.
Now what we're going to do is tilt your head up and down from that position. I want this completely gone. Down or up?
Down.
Okay. Is it completely gone?
Mhm.
Okay. We don't move. What's going to happen is this place, now the nervous system starts unwinding and letting go. And Will's going to have an awareness of something else. We don't know. But we're getting in alignment with the nervous system's ability to let this go. And the idea is when it finally gets to a place where we just can't find a position of comfort, we take it out and we see how it feels without anything. Because in the place where there's no more comfort to be had with all these props and positions, that means centered and balanced is now the position of comfort. It allows us to get back to the baseline that we had when we're the 9-month-old baby sleeping on the floor, you know? So you just kind of hang in there and you can share what you're noticing or feeling.
A lot less, but now it's moved up. Kind of base of the skull on the right.
Okay, so now we had 3 directions. We had forward and back, we had tilting, and we had rotation. So now you need to tweak and adjust to make that go away in that spot. Gone?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But you could also feel like in the room. This is really cool when we talk about neurological stuff and the connection that we have. Like when you feel somebody walk in the room and they're upset, it's like you go,
Mm-hmm.
you know, you could feel it. And this is the same thing. When Will's nervous system gets to that place, that's the sweet spot, and it drops. everyone else in the room can feel it too, which is it's a cool party trick at the very, very least.
Yeah.
But it goes, we could use this in relationship with anybody. Whenever we find that position of comfort, having an argument with somebody, and they're doing their thing. There's usually anybody that's upset about something, it's more about them than it is about us. And if we find a position of comfort within ourselves, like physically find a position of comfort in ourselves and start bleeding off the tension in ourselves, it's going to diffuse it in them. That's how neurologies work. That's why the best thing you can do in an argument is not say anything and just listen. You know this, right? Someone's yelling at you, you go like, you agree with them? Yep, you're right. Yeah, I can totally see that. I understand. Yep. And finally, they're gonna like say everything that they can possibly say, and then all of a sudden, their nervous system has diffused the tension. And in the meantime, if we're finding a position of comfort in ourselves and amidst that barrage of whatever they're bleeding off, then they're going to be more relaxed, and so are we.
Everything's good.
Come on.
But then I have to get up and move. So
Well, we'll try. Yeah. I mean, that's part of it. Like, there's that place where we got some valuable tools here to work with just sitting in a chair.
Yeah.
Profound stuff that shifted just with a towel on a seat. That's big stuff.
Yeah.
Now you got up and moved, and what's going on?
clicky shoulders, middle of the back, but it's not what it was before.
Okay.
So it's still chasing it around.
Now, when you sat back down, did the stuff disappear from the middle of the shoulders?
No.
It didn't. Okay. Stuff didn't. You sat back
No,
down.
but the low back and pelvis feels, not on the towel, feels normal now.
Okay.
So I don't feel like I'm doing this, and I don't feel like I need to do this.
Okay. What would begin to reduce what's going on in the upper back? Let me check the time. Yeah, let's why don't we're gonna wrap up this session right now. Here's where this is a good part of integration. Like, a lot shifted for all three of you. Me too. But the nervous system has a governor, and it limits the change that can happen all at once. And we'll get to this place of feeling like, oh man, this feels really good, and I feel all loose and stuff like that. And we want to keep that in check, because if we get too far out of what we're familiar with, we will do things. I've done things. I've had hundreds of clients do things that will actually put them back into pain after getting out of pain. So they'll go and they'll get in a car accident, they'll fall off of a curb, they will go to judo, you know, I mean, it's like there's like lots of things, because we can't comprehend it could feel this good. So we need to keep that in mind when shifting stuff in the nervous system, that all of this is happening at the same time. That we have to go, great, it shifted and all that. It's still in the upper back. Let's drink some water, let's move around, and let's reevaluate in about 20 minutes or so and see where it is, so we can take the next movement forward so we don't blow ourselves out. Because the neurology, if you change it too much in a short period of time, it'll shut down. Meaning, It's like when you get in a car accident. Life changes really drastically in a short period of time. The neurology has to shut down in order for us to integrate those changes in both directions, whether we're getting it tight and more painful or we're getting it relaxed. We have to understand this is taking place in the neurology both ways. So move around, get some water, go to the bathroom if you need to, and we'll kind of reconvene in about 20 minutes. For those that are watching, it'll be the second session, and you guys will we'll start back up here in about 20 minutes. For those that are on YouTube, if you'd like to go to the link in the description and sign up for the Facebook page for the class, I will answer your questions. I will demonstrate how you can relieve the tension in your body with what you're dealing with, and you will also get access to the replay. So we're going to wrap this up. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll see you soon.